My name is Jen Bourgeau, and I am the United States Country Coordinator for the GLOBE program. And every week, or approximately every week, we gather this group that can pop in for an hour. We talk shop for about 20 minutes, and then usually somebody takes us off into a different direction. But it's a great check-in. So this week, I am very pleased and excited to introduce the Forest Service team for MyTree, and they're going to tell us about this. And I think from what I've seen and heard, this fits in really, really well with the GLOBE studies that we do of trees. So I'm super excited about this. And big thanks to Susan Cox, who a lot of you have met in other meetings, and also Barbara McGinnis, who also has presented with us before, just for keeping this on our radar and bringing this opportunity to us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over, and it is very informal. It's a water cooler. The idea is that we're gathering at the water cooler and swapping some ideas, and obviously wishing each other weird holiday days, and making sure that our sports teams are properly, swapped, and enough trash talk is given about that. So take it away.
Oh, wings.
Susan or Barbara, do you want to start with anything, or do you want me to jump into this?
I think Susan and Dave, didn't we say Susan could give a little perspective of the educational side? So Susan, that's what we thought. And then Dave's going to start, and I'll pitch in as we go. And then I just want to tell Jennifer one thing that I noticed your marketing and advertising for this was we're going to introduce Mr. Tree. So instead of MyTree. So when you talk, you can introduce Dave as Mr. Tree.
Well, it's Barbara now, so it's Mrs. Tree.
All right, go ahead, Susan. We'll shut up.
Jen kind of summarized it. I think, the MyTree suite of tools, I think fits in really nicely with what GLOBE is doing around trees. And I think as Dave Blonyars and Dave Nowak, who are with the Forest Service, Scott Mako is with Davey Tree, correct?
Yes.
And Keith Nislow is also with the Forest Service. So they're essentially the team that works on the MyTree suite of tools, and I will just let it go to you guys.
All right. So I'm Dave Nowak, everybody. I'm going to start the few slides as a way of introduction, and then we can have discussion. I'm going to show you a tool. So let me share my screen here.
We got it, Dave.
All right.
Dave, and don't forget the video sometime, you said.
Yeah, it's linked in there, Dave.
Okay, sweet.
All right, so what we'd like to do today is basically we're working on a new tool in MyTree. I'm going to explain a little bit about what MyTree is, and this new tool we think will fit with some of the GLOBE programs. So we're hoping to show you where this tool stands now. It's not totally developed. We just received funding like a month ago to start working on this, but we've been playing around with it. So the tool really does not, it works, parts of it work, but the mapping functions are not. So when you see it, don't worry about anything being wrong numbers, because it's not done. But we'd like to bring you in at this stage to show you where we're going with the tool, to see how this tool might fit with some of your programs, and if any ways that you could give us ideas and test it out. I think we're going to have a better testable version on the week of November 9th. They're still working on certain parts of it, but we want you in from the beginning to see, as we develop this, to see if we can fit the needs of education and the things that you're doing. So MyTree is basically a series of tools that we've built over the last 20 to 30 years to try to assess basically the value from trees and how many trees you have. So it works globally, and there's many tools. We probably have a dozen or more different tools depending on the user base. Some are mapping programs, some are field programs. What we're going to show you today is MyTree, which is a phone app program, which is designed to be really easy to use. Probably the lowest engagement. It calculates right on your phone. You can see on our partners, we have partners here from Davey. There's many other people who have been working on this to try and develop these tools, and they're free to everybody. There's free tech support. So we're in the process of rebuilding MyTree right now, and that's what we want to show you. Again, it is global. We have almost now, well, Scott might know the latest numbers, but we have almost 500,000 users globally, most in the United States, because all the tools are first developed to work here. But the platform is built so it can work anywhere across the world. And you can see as we started, what, about 15 years ago or so, we've grown, and we're growing each year at a rate of about 30% of new users coming in and trying the different tools. So it's a global platform. So we're looking for partners across the globe to help us build different parts of it. But we'd like to bring you in as partners trying to develop this tool to get dissemination out.
And
basically what we do is somebody measures some attribute about a tree or a series of trees or group of trees, and we bring in local data, calculate various ecosystem services, and the ones in yellow are what's in the tool now. The one in green, we pretty much have papers on it now. We still have to develop the code to bring it in for everybody to use. The goal is to try and understand all services with one click of the button and not have to run multiple models to bring all trees. Trees provide multiple benefits. It'll calculate that out.
Dave, when you mentioned support, I was just going to say right now we are offering the MyTree International Academy. It's an 8-session program that runs for about 2 to 2.5 hours each session. We have folks from 23 different countries participating, and we had 85 participants in the first 2 classes. So really, we want to bring this out internationally, as Dave said. So I just wanted to pitch that in, as your Globe project is international. We're really reaching out to our international partners, and a lot of the ones that are in the academy are dealing with elementary, high school, and other youth education programming.
Yeah, we've worked with the Project Learning Tree and built some manuals using, you can see on this slide here, there's different tools. The 4 core tools are up in the white area. MyTree is a spin-off tool, not really a core tool, but design, we have curriculum built for, is it K through 12 or is it grade 3 through 12? I'm not, Dave, you worked on that.
Yeah, grades 3 through 12. Yeah,
so there's manuals and field works how to use the design, which is basically a mapping program on Google where you can put trees around your house. This is similar, MyTree is similar to design, except for there's no mapping program. It's basically right to the phone. You know your location based on the GPS in your phone. So there's multiple tools. I'm not going to go through any of these today except for MyTree, but let you know it's more than just one thing that we're showing. Okay, so here's what MyTree looks like. I'm going to show you this, but first Dave made a video. So I'm going to show you the video. It's like a minute long or so, and then I'll walk you through MyTree as it is today, and then I'll show you the development program we have, and then we'll see if we have any comments. Oh, I might have a problem with this, with the audio, because I'll probably hear Scott had this problem too.
Dave,
if I play this.
Yeah, Dave, if you go to share your screen, just back out of there for 1 sec. When you go to share your screen, there's 2 check boxes down the bottom, and it'll say, go ahead now and go to share my screen.
There we go. You are now sharing. I'm going to stop sharing. Stop sharing and share again.
Yes, and sorry about this, everybody. Now, go to share again, and don't go and pick anything until you check the 2 boxes down the bottom left corner.
Yeah, share computer audio and optimize screen sharing. Okay,
yep. You're fine.
There we go. Now we will try it.
There you go.
Do that.
MyTree is a free mobile web app that allows people to assess the value of individual trees. The tool can bring an exciting opportunity for students to discover the natural world around them, conduct field research, link to other STEM learning, and contribute to a worldwide citizen science initiative. The application has been developed to aid students in assessing the value and benefits provided by their local trees and producing data analysis reports in a simple, easy-to-read format. Using a smartphone, tablet, or laptop computer, students visit trees within a defined area, i.e. schoolyard, park, etc., and collect information on the type, size, and condition of each tree using simple pull-down menus, and MyTree records the information for review, reporting, and the production of an easy-to-read graphic report. MyTree is quick, easy, and provides a great STEM learning opportunity for students of all levels.
So we produced that just to get folks, if we have to give a presentation somewhere, your video graphics might have not been so hot going over Zoom, but it's just to get excitement by folks that might be interested in possibly using it. And Dave's going to go through and show us some of the close components of it. So it's so easy and simple to use. We've had great success bringing it out to the school-age children at a variety of levels. Dave, you got to stop your share now. Oh, no, you don't. You have to get into
Yeah, I got a few more slides here.
Yeah, okay.
So basically it's a phone app. Scott, do you have anything to say? You want to chime in anything? Did I wake you up?
There we go. Sorry about that. No, that was great overview, Dave. The only thing I was going to add is that, you know, for you guys, what I know about Globe, you're working internationally, and there's a process to get these tools to work internationally. Dave said MyTree starts out by working in the US, and then we adapt it based on kind of need or whoever's asking for it and who has funds to do it country by country. And so there's a process of doing that where we build out MyTree Eco, and then we can do some of the other tools like MyTree. Currently, MyTree is only working for US and Canada. However, we did just get funding for this tool to be built out. International Forest Service International programs just funded us to build this tool out for New Delhi in India, Colombia, Mexico, and where else are we going? Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Dave, and eventually Korea. So it's coming online, but this is like the last of all our MyTree tools to go global, but it's happening. And I think it's going to be accelerating over the next couple of years.
Yeah, the key of going global is getting those global data sets that we need that are not specific to the US. I mean, the model can work anywhere. It's more data input. So that's why we work with international partners to get that. So what I'm going to show you real briefly is a couple slides on how the tool works now as it exists. And then we're going to move to the development site, which you guys can play around with too if you get the website, and show you where we're going. And what we're basically doing is we're taking this program, which is an individual tree calculator on your phone, and allowing people to pin the trees to a global map. So we're having geographic specificity to the data, and then you can query the databases. The original idea behind this was something I had on this Getting Kids in the Woods program, trying to get schools to compete because kids don't, everybody's going so technology based, no one's going outside. So the idea I had originally was if we build this program in pins, we can say classroom A can compete against classroom B, who can pin the most trees and learn about the services provided by trees. It's sort of morphing into a much bigger program now as we develop it, but that was the original idea. So this version does not have the pinning. This is the one that you can download right now. So basically it asks you, you can use your GPS or pin your address down. It asks you what the species is. You can use common or scientific name. What's the condition of the tree? Is it dead? In excellent condition. The diameter, the stem diameter, 4.5 feet, or you can click the button, the green button, and it'll switch to circumference if you don't have a diameter tape. And is it in full sun, partial sun, or full shade? And the simple questions about the tree right in front of you, wherever you're standing. And there we go. There was also, there we go, an energy page. If you're near a building, it would ask you, you check that box and ask you some information about the building and how far away the tree is from the building and its compass direction. That will do energy conservation. If you're not near a building, you just not click that box, obviously. And then once you're done, those trees that you pin go onto this sheet, the last page. And then you can calculate the individual trees. You can calculate all of them, or you can edit or delete them. And in the end, this is just one of the trees, the Chinese elm, that comes up, as you saw in the video, with this little nutrient tag, if you will, of the value of the tree and the services provided by the tree. So it's pretty much that simple. But what we've done, we're hoping here with the GLOBE program, it was the Globe Observer and the Biosphere program, and maybe others, there might be ways that we could link with the stuff you're doing. And that's what we want to have this discussion about. So I would like to show you here, these are the two sites that are in development. And I'm going to go to them. This is the way it would look on your phone once we get to it. The difference here now versus the one I just showed you is there's going to be a map, and you can move the tree to its exact location Come on. There we go. By clicking on the screen. Have the best internet connection. So basically, when you zoom in, you can get your phone address, but if you want to move that tree around to a different location, you can move that tree position to the exact location on the map, and it's going to record the GPS coordinates for that location. Then you go to the next, once you have your location down. So record the lat and longitude. In the beginning, you can type your address. And here's some new things that we added in there. Your project or group name. So this could be Classroom A, Classroom B, it could be Globe, it could be whatever you want. You make up the name. We are working on having that group name sorted by geographic location because we're assuming there are going to be multiple common group names. So you could sort by state, county, or community, and then find your group name for the location you want. We've added tree type, which is it an existing tree, a new tree planting? The reason we're doing this is with this Trillion Tree campaign, we could start monitoring all the new trees that are being planted. Once they plant them, they put them on the phone. We also have test and imaginary tree, which is all the ones we're doing right now, which means if it's test or imaginary, it doesn't go to the database. We'll know people just make, like here, I'm just making a tree up. We can go common name or scientific name. I'm not sure why a valid species must be entered. So you can then choose from the list. Condition, same stuff as before. Tree size or circumference. Let's say it was a 10-inch tree that you were measuring. Full sun, partial sun, because these affect the values. Is it within 60 feet of a building? We'll say no. And then if you have, you take notes on the tree. And Keith, this is where we're linking into your Healthy Trees, Healthy Cities initiative. Down here is something we're doing with the Nature Conservancy. When you're done, goes to the list, same as before. It's very similar to the program I just showed you. And then you can calculate the services for that tree or multiple trees. So that's the new tool. Just basically the mapping function is new, and a few questions about group and the something else that was new.
And that benefit label looks like a food nutrition label, basically, so that, you know, it appeals to folks. It's sort of that they understand what those are and the way that's laid out. And you can save that as a PDF, or you can print it and use it as part of your educational outreach and things like that. And with the kids, there's many opportunities for them to pull it together into reporting or into posters, infographics, and things like that we've been working with.
And there's that globe is right there. That's the notes that I put in. And you can edit if you wanted. So the other thing that was new, oh, the other thing was the tree type. Besides group, it was tree type is new to the program. So that is the program as it is now. We are working on adding and figuring out how to do this is if you want to do multiple plantings. This is something as we got comments from different groups. If you are planting or dealing with a lot of trees, let's say you're going to plant 1,000 seedlings at a site, how do you deal with multiple groupings and do the calculation? So that'll be available also. This program as it stands is a single tree program.
And right now, folks are using it for existing trees. So when they go out onto the school grounds and are going to do, say, a ecosystem analysis of trees and vegetation on the school grounds, they'll use it to determine the value and map it. And the pinning isn't on it yet, but when they will, they'll be able to look at looking at existing trees. So, but in the current version, as we use it now, the kids will transfer the information and then add that into a Google Maps or some other type of a mapping program in high school that put it in a GIS. So the data, the information, and then from a wide range going all the way from infographics to being able to put it in a report to being able to just really the aha moment of, wow, I didn't know our trees on the school grounds intercept 22,000 gallons of water a year, or whatever that number might be, or hold X number of pounds of particulate pollution. And it really is a great learning opportunity. And it brings out the whole vision of MyTree to look at the structure, function, and value of trees in the landscape.
Jen has a question that I know that you guys were pretty excited about. One, where does the data go? Where is it housed? And can you track a tree over a couple of years or several years?
Oh, tracking question. The data will go automatically when you pin it. It's going to go to the server and it goes to this map. This is the new part. So we're looking for comments for you basically on the handheld device, but that's pretty much fairly stable. It's the mapping. This is the totally new part. So it would go to this database where you could query by location or by your group name. Again, this stuff is all made up. None of these trees are actually real. Or you can query by planting type, and we're gonna have multiple filters. So if you wanted to see all the new tree plantings by group A, if there are any, the database will resort, and then you can export those data. But probably more importantly is a geographic location, because otherwise you're getting everything on this map. And on the map, you can zoom in. And as you get closer and closer, the locations of the trees start popping up. Again, these are totally made up. It's just a test program. So you can then see, so if you're in a school district and you would really zoom in, there might be a lot of pins around your school, who knows? So that's what we have. Oh, the question of, can you remonitor? This is the thing we're dealing with. The answer is probably yes. We got to figure out how to do that. I know it can be done. The problem is it's a couple issues with that. And this is what we have to think through. You'll have two trees at the exact same site with different dates, which is okay. But you have to be, the question is, it would have to be the exact same site. The GPS coordinate would have to be dead on to do the change, to make sure it's the same tree. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do that. And the question is, do we want people to edit the data? So basically, you can go to that point. In this case, maybe click on, I don't know what half these trees are. I think I'm making up names here. Click on the tree and edit this tree. You could do that, but one of the things we have to be concerned about is maybe you want to do that, but you don't want other people to do that, to change the data with a different date. So we have to figure out how best to stop people from doing things that we don't want to have them do and messing data sets up that. So we really don't want the database that's in there editable, but we want to have multiple records for the exact same location, which means it would have to pin to the exact coordinate from the GPS. So, but if that's what you're interested in, if that's going to fit, that's what we want comments from you. Or what is best that fits with the type of needs that you have, because the change data has been brought up before, but there are logistics of how to do this without messing too much up. So there's current tree benefits to date, 1 year, and then we're going to have future benefits going 40 years out of what the trees would produce in the future. And we got to put the scroll down, which is at the bottom now. He's going to put this so it's always showing, and you can move over and see it's not just carbon. Sorry, you can see energy, air pollution, water storage, things like that. So it's basically taking all the data that people put on the phone and housing it into a database and putting it on a map that's queryable, and then people can then say, so like the idea that I had for schools, you could query group A versus group B, which trees have the most value, which trees, who pin the most trees, things like that. And that's the concept that we have right now. It's pretty much, we're looking for ideas for education, which is one, and the other is for monitoring programs. If actually people are planting trees, this is one goal we want to have the program is we know the locations of the trees. We can pin those, move those locations over to Google on maps in the future and verify if those trees actually still exist in future planting. We have a two-pronged approach to this. So that is all I have. If you
Dave, you got a couple comments in there, and one I just want to echo on the chat box. Sarah and Larissa, that's why we're here today, because we look at it as a great complement to your Globe Observer tree app, because we're familiar with that, and that's what Susan Cox said. Hey, maybe the two of these could meld or mesh or be complement each other, and we look at it as this being a complement to that. So we see that's one of the reasons we're here today. And then, Dave, there's another question in here where they're talking about the city's GIS layer, and going back to those trees could be of interest. So yes, we would be able to do that. And then Michael, you had an idea of if you're entering the tree ID, Dave, and we get a tree ID, then they could enter that and then enter the new data as an appendix to the original. So if we were to go back next year, and we've been, the development team, Dave knows more about that, and Scott, but we've been struggling with that over the last month, trying to figure that out.
Yeah, you would be able to export the data because they have GPS coordinates and all the data associated with it to your own GIS, which would be fine. The tree ID, that's one way we could do it. So we'd have to create a tree ID, a unique tree ID to every tree on there, and then you could say, I want to edit or do another record for that exact same tree. That's in theory doable. The question is, may not be as simple as it sounds in terms of the server, but that's an idea that you could do, is pull up data by querying the tree IDs or whatever, and then allowing it to be edited and create a new record. Again, that's work that has to be done, but we have to, with the funding that we have to see what are the highest priorities. And the highest priority right now is try to get as most that we can get done, the biggest bang for the buck that we have.
A question that I'd like you, we have a question about tree age. Does it matter to age the tree?
No, you can't. Anybody who can age a tree is a magician to me. You can measure the size of the tree and estimate the age unless you core it, and even coring it is not totally accurate. We can estimate the age based on average growth rate. So if you have a 30-inch tree, I would estimate that that tree would be about 90 years old. But it depends on growth rates and species and things like this. Average growth rate is about a third an inch a year. So we don't require tree age. We require you to measure things that you can see or touch, basically.
There's a comment about the PLT iTree unit that is free. I know a lot of the PLT materials you need to pay for or attend a workshop, and that iTree unit is free because the Forest Service funded that. And that was designed essentially to get teachers and students kind of into iTree, it's an introductory thing, and it includes tree ID activities. So that again is another good complement to Globe.
It's really, I worked on that team to put that thing together, and MyTree wasn't out at that time, so we used iTree Design, but I think it's a good complement to this whole process here with your observer tree, and then with this MyTree, and then with the PLT programming. And they give, we put a lot of time in the user manual, the training manuals, and resources. So you could take a look at that certainly anytime. And like Susan said, that's free. You've already paid for that.
Yeah,
there's a technical question here from Peter Nelson. It says, how could we exchange data between the databases? And are those databases like the city of Berkeley that you put up here in the open tree map? Is that the database?
No,
you're referring to?
I'm thinking of the, yeah, David, I'm actually thinking of the Globe database that stores all of the records from, say, Globe Observer.
Yeah.
That is missing some of the information that you need to do your calculations. And you guys have data about tree points and locations in your database. And we kind of have these two competing things that people have to choose from. So how do we move forward with sort of benefiting from both of these? Or how, because those calculations, getting people to do those the carbon protocol is a little bit challenging because of needing to know species and some things like that. So, how do we merge the databases together, or what's kind of the vision here of how we might be able to do something like that?
Oh, yeah, and I'll pitch in, and then Dave could take it, and Scott from here. But originally iTree, it was a combination of two competing programs. Dave had U4, which is the urban forest effects model on the East Coast. And Greg McPherson had Stratum, which was the street tree urban evaluation model on the West Coast. And we had to all get together. And then out of that, we created iTree because it was the teams all putting our resources together. So as you just mentioned that, we don't want to compete with anybody. We only want to complement with, your program with NASA Globe. And we feel that we would be a great partner in that. So in the end, we don't know where this is going to go, but right now, I think we could have these complement each other. And Dave and Scott can talk to you about how we could share some database things and like that. But we want to complement. We don't want to compete. And there's just not enough energy to go around with that. And to serve the kids, the complementary path is where we want to go.
Yeah, Scott, I'll say a few things, then you can talk maybe the API, but one of my goals is we're running the same thing with the Nature Conservancy and that Healthy Trees, Healthy Cities initiative. I said that right. I said it backwards. Is how do we get the two databases to talk to each other? One of the hardest things is species codes. Besides identifying species, the hardest thing to teach people in the field. It's your codes might be different from our codes. Other things, everything else are pretty much numeric and or alphanumeric and easy to pass. So we could either export our data and you import it, but then we got to crosswalk the species. Same thing. So a universal species list. We have about 8,000 species in ours. Is going to be critical of doing this. And I think it's going to talk a discussion between probably Mike Binkley and our crew and whoever's doing your database. We're free to share either direction. My goal is we don't want to compete, as Dave was saying. I'd like to have one map where we can just have people collecting and get to this one universal map of where these trees are, regardless. It doesn't have to be us that maps them. Because there are other maps out there. Some of them are going away. Xavier has a map and Curio has a map. I think they're going and trying to pass it on. It'd be great to have a global map where people can collect data. So we do have an API. I don't know, Scott, if you want to talk about that, how we share data through the API.
Sure. Yeah, we just kind of, because people are asking for it, there's a lot of people with big tree inventories, data sets, and we're looking for an easy way to get these ecosystem service calculations. So we just developed a brand new API that we are beta testing now. And if you hit this API with a species, the DBH, all those parameters that Dave showed you, condition, all that stuff, it will return a value based on your local values for that tree in the area where you're planting or looking. So that's something we could maybe do. I love the idea of integrating, have one map. It's a little bit different because we do require the things like diameter, breast height. We do require species, a couple of those things, because we do need to produce those carbon values and all that. But I think it would be interesting to look at. And as Dave said, we've had these kind of challenges before, and we certainly don't want to compete. How can we be complementary? And maybe the APIs, it sounds like you guys are developing one too. Maybe that's the answer. And the other thing I always think about too is we're trying to keep this thing simple rather than complicate it with a lot of things. And I'm sure you guys are doing it with your app as well. And when you start requiring all these other aspects, it can make things difficult for the end user. But yeah, I mean, speaking on behalf of all of us, we'd love to talk more. I'm not sure we can do it on this water cooler conversation, but yeah, we should definitely entertain that.
Yeah, I think it's the two programmers need to talk, because again, we have certain, if you want to do ecosystem services, you can't just say this is a maple tree. We'd have to know other things than just species.
And you know that we've been working a little bit with PLT. We will be presenting, I think Dave and I and Susan will be presenting this same kind of a presentation to them at some point. So, you know, the infrastructure that the GLOBE program has and PLT, we just want this out there and for the kids to be using it, and, you know, for adults in this case here also, but whoever will be using this, you know, we just want it to get out to the world. And certainly you and PLT and, you know, the Forest Service in our urban and community forestry world, but you are really, you know, plugged into citizen science. We're plugged into citizen science too, but at a different scale and a different level. So this would be a tremendous opportunity if we could all work, you know, sort of on the same focus.
Yeah, we are building, or we'll plan on building an importer for a massive database import in, and just like we're having an export, because other people have inventories like street tree inventories they might want to bring in. So we have to work on that. That might work in this case. So that's the idea. We want you to just explore this whole conversation today is just look at what we have, give us ideas and see, and we can have further discussions about how do we communicate between the two systems and what's the best way, because you have certain objectives. Ours is basically calculating services, and we hope that the pinning will help with either monitoring or education. And can we improve that either by linking to yours? I mean, we could possibly import yours and put it on, or give you ours and it goes onto your system. That's the kind of discussion we'd have to have. So you'd have to bring the right people to the table.
Yeah, I have a question from So Peter, and maybe this is, you can weigh in on this. The Globe Observer just focuses on tree height. The Globe Carbon uses the tree circumference. And then yours, the iTree does not have height, but it does have circumference. Is that correct? I'm just trying to think about, like, we've got like I feel like we have three things going right now. Because we have two apps that we have, and then you have yours. So I just want to clarify that.
Right. So what we need to do for our ecosystem services, most of it's driven by leaves. So we have to get to the canopy size. So DBH and species are the basic information we need. Same with carbon. We don't necessarily need height because we can estimate, we have equations that'll estimate height from DBH. So for carbon, if you just want to do storage, how much carbon is there right now, DBH and species is fine. If you want to project forward how much carbon is going to be sequestered, that is why condition is in there. And light exposure, because trees that are open grown and forested canopies have different growth rates. Trees that are dead have different growth rates than healthy trees. And the growth rates also vary by your location. We'll know that from where you pin. So storage is not a problem. It's sequestration, which is, I mean, dead trees sequester no carbon, that type of idea. We need a little bit more information than just DBH.
Jen, I'm going to also throw out there just to the Forest Service folks who are joining us. Globe also has Globe, I'm going to get the word wrong, but partners. So you can sign up as a scientist to be a resource for people who participate in Globe. And if you're interested in doing that, please do.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. That'll be good. All of us could. You know, and I'm just thinking back when you first did Globe Observer, I don't know why I was on it, but I was on NASA has like a public access station where they do a lot of webcasts and things. But where you first announced, when it first came out, Jennifer, that wasn't you on the webcast, was it? Where you're outside the office and showing us how to use it?
Is that 40 years ago, or is
well, it was well, it's back in the day. I don't know how long ago. I've been here too long, but it was pretty cool because it just showed me how you get the word out to people, and that's something we struggle with. We're fairly successful getting iTree around the world and things, but there's audiences out there that we miss, and this whole thing, never mind just looking at the trees, but just the Globe audience, things like PLT and other, you know, the envirothons and things like that is just a great opportunity, and we want to try to explore that. But you certainly do a great job on that. I was just complimenting on how that got out, and I don't know how it made its way to my desktop, but I watched it, and it was a live broadcast. So
probably wasn't me then. I try not to be live. I like to edit.
I don't think you were actually born yet. Now that Barbara reminds me.
No, I'm sorry. That was completely inappropriate. We were past the informal part of the meeting. I'm sorry.
We've only been around for 25 years, so, you know. I think there's a couple different things, because we have like 6 minutes left, but I can see a couple different things that I just want to summarize. That first of all, this is a great group, the Globe partners that are online. We have ways to get this out. I also know that Tina Hart is online. She's from NASA Langley, and she works with a lot of camps in the summer. So she had said to me, you know, like camps could use this. So I think that there's a lot that Globe partners can explore about this idea. So that's the first thing. That educationally, I think there's a lot. I think that it would be great if Globe partners, we had some time to look at it a little bit more educationally, for sure. How does that play out in our professional development for teachers? And then I think there's also the two different ideas we have going with Globe Observer and the tree height there, Globe Carbon, where we're taking the measurements of the, you know, so there's that part. And then maybe a third part is just the database and getting them to talk to each other and what we can use and share. I was on the Globe Carbon team. I love the idea of reporting the condition of the tree, because that is something that we struggled with. And getting that into the database, we finally had to say, if the tree's dead, it's still laying there. We have to have a way to record that, 3 years ago it was standing and growing and now it's laying on the ground.
Yeah.
So there's like all of these things that are database issues, right? So I think that's another really cool thing. And it's a way for us to go many ways actually and directions. So I think that I can query the Globe partners and see who's interested in what pieces of this. Because I really see these different conversations, and some people may say, I do not want any part of that API thing. And then other people saying, I want to talk about the education part and putting this in professional development.
Yeah, our hope is that you can share we can send you, if someone sends an email around, the links to the dev sites. And again, November 9th, it'll be a little bit better because they're still working on pieces. But our goal is by April-ish, Arbor Day, to have a somewhat good beta version out for everybody to use. And in doing so, we would like input from your group by, let's say, the end of this year. So we have reason, I mean, we discuss it into January and into the spring, but have a good conversation before then so that we can have our work load set for early next year to finish whatever we decide is the best path forward. So feel free to share as much as you want and solicit as much input as you want, and maybe we can have a few more calls with whoever you want to facilitate these discussions. But at some point, we're gonna have to move forward and build this tool as what it's going to, at least, I mean, the first version anyways. We can always adjust it with future funding, new versions, but we want to get the first version out by spring.
Yep. That'd be great.
And then also, I think someone said we're doing, Michael, you said you think we're doing our PLT talk on November 18th. So in your network, you'll probably get invited to that. I think that's the new date. The registration is open now. So you may want to look at PLT, and they go through it. We set it up to go through Eventbrite, so you can get the login for that. And then there was one other question in here. Sarah, this is from Sarah asked, what happens when two people collect data on the same tree but identify the tree species differently? Well, we got to send them back to the training. So no, I don't know what the real answer is. But
what we're deciding on that is we're not going to police this database. There's going to be all sorts of things that are going to have good or bad data, and we have to have a self-policing method where people can submit and say, we want this data changed and override it somehow. Or put a 5-star, or maybe just, we don't know. And even if the second person says the first person's wrong, we don't know who's right.
Right. And
we have two records that just can contradict each other.
That's why if you look at a lot of the inventory teams that do citizen science out on, municipal street trees and things, we put them in teams of 3 so that the 2 that think they know more can outweigh the first one.
Yeah, but species is tough. Even professionals, if their time was in monitor plots, will change their mind on the species. Then it's like, who's right? It's a tough call.
Certified arborists only agree on species and genus and species 80% of the time. You would think it'd be more, but it isn't. We've done the study to show it. So even the professionals have a little bit of trouble sometimes.
Outside of the diversity issue, it's not that critical as long as you're close. I mean, the services will be relatively close. You're talking about species diversity, then maybe, or things that are directly tied to a particular species. But it's at least to get them out there and they're doing the best they can. That's better than nothing.
Thank you.
So there was a quick. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick comment. Thanks for answering that. I was just picturing maybe something that shows like a certain percentage of people think this is this kind of maple or something. Some kind of display like that could maybe be helpful from a citizen scientist perspective.
From a particular tree or from a picture?
From a particular tree.
Yeah, you could do that. I suppose that would be an idea that if all the students go up to the tree, they record it, and then it records the pie chart of estimates. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Yeah.
This is why we all want to come back as graduate students. It'll give us a great chance to keep exploring. And
So
then
there was, Scott is the comment, I'm sorry, Dave, Scott is comment, there's also a comment about Canada. I don't know if it's 2 apps or 1 app of Canada. I think, Scott, it's in the same tool, right? You can run Canada right off MyTree.
So iTree, MyTree is what we're talking about today, and that is a distinct tool that always you access that through iTree tools. I believe that MyTree Canada is a tree selector app. So if you're looking to plant a tree in your backyard, it tells you what your climate zone is. It tells you what kind, if it's deciduous or evergreen, something like that, but distinctly different, I believe.
Okay, I didn't know that, all right.
And then
you had something to say,
in
Scott?
oh, go ahead, Scott.
Oh yeah, just my last comment was I wasn't trying to oversell that PLT curriculum, but I did think it's based on iTree Design, which is basically the desktop version of MyTree. So the principles would all be similar, and they did, I think, a pretty good job of thinking how to get kids engaged with it. So it just might be something that you guys look at
On the website.
There's some good graphics in there. I helped contribute to some of that, not pat myself on the shoulder, but thank you, Peter, for the resources you put in the chat. And also Susan, you put in the chat the link for the PLT sort of water cooler that we'll be doing next month. So that registration is open. If you go register, it'll send you the Zoom link, and you could just zoom in for that. I forget what time it's at, but all the details are there for you.
I also put Dave Blonyar's and Dave Nowak's emails in there, not mine.
What?
Mako, type yours in there too. Scott Mako will type
there
yours.
already.
Scott's is in there too.
So Susan, if I send you those hyperlinks, so you don't type it in, can you send it around to the group? Do you have the, or
sure.
Jen, or
Well,
whoever has
I'll
the
send them
emails?
to Jen and she can send them around.
Okay, that'll get people just to play around with it, and hopefully it's sort of self-explanatory. And again, be very clear that those websites do not work. I mean, they appear to work, but the numbers are totally garbage. I mean, this thing is computer generated, random things being thrown in there, basically.
But come February, Dave, this will be hopefully, or for Arbor Day at the latest, we hope, right?
Yeah, we're planning to shoot it for late April.
Okay.
So we want to get your comments in by the end of this year, so have more discussions, so we can start making a plan to move forward.
Great.
I think we're over time, aren't we, Jen?
Yeah.
We are. So what I'll do is, here's my plan. I am making my, well, you won't be surprised. I'm going to make a Padlet, and I'm going to have the link to this webinar, the links that we have in the chat, and then I'll send this around to the Globe partner list. And so everyone can access that, play around with all the tools, and then we'll collect all that data on the Padlet for our Forest Service colleagues. It's just a way for us to kind of add all of our ideas to one space.
That'd be great.
And then I'll download that and send it off to you.